that sliding 54 lightweight. I tell you what, you'd love to see a little bit more of that, but you won't be seeing it in this video because whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it too, we're going to be doing it in the KV1. That's right, the KV1. We've been so upset lately. There's been so many dramas. Patch 3.8, the M60, Wargaming not loving me enough as a child, Sir Fosh going off like a frog in a sock and telling some hard truths. But none of that changes the fact that Stalin's chosen is still the KV1. Welcome back, boys and girls. I won't be making any great announcements today. We're just going to talk tanks. This is the original and still quite possibly the greatest heavy at tier 5 that everyone wants to get. Back in the day when you kicked off, when you got out of your short pants, started playing the big boy stuff at tier 5 and above, this was the tank everyone wanted. It carried hard. And with so many people back then just beginning the game, there was a huge amount of subpar tanks that were stock, tanks that didn't have all the bells and whistles on them. And what that meant is that you could take a tank like this with an incredible armor profile and turn it into something that was special. And that's exactly what a lot of people did. And especially if they knew how to play the game, guys like Ruckus and co, they really dominated the landscape in tanks like this. And there wasn't really any tank like this. There wasn't the power creep that there is now. This little French number here, this racy little green thing that looks a little bit like a teardrop that someone shoved a turret on top of, that wasn't around. The Brit bugger on my left, the Churchill, yeah, he wasn't around. None of that existed. It was just the KV1 and nothing but justice as far as the eye could see. So I thought, why not man up and have a go in the old razzle-dazzle one more time? And wouldn't you know it, it performed like a finely tuned instrument. It's got so much armor. It's got just raw numbers that they tell you in the client. You've got the 75 front, 75 sides, and 70 rear. But that doesn't even go close to telling the story. This tank has flat armor, and that means you can side scrape and really increase the angle of that armor so that it becomes a very, very bouncy tank. And the chassis, the upper glacis, all of those things have lots of little angles that really are quite steep and nasty. And if the tanks that you're fighting don't have very good pen and are not prepared to actually spend a little bit of time in the open aiming, then you can really, really do some damage. You can bounce a lot of shots. You can be very, very aggressive in this tank. And I've got to be honest, I was very, very aggressive in the making of this video. I spent a lot of time pushing forward into whatever flank I was on. Unless I was up-tiered, I felt pretty secure against anyone. Pretty secure in the knowledge that I could side scrape my way out of trouble. I could angle my way out of trouble, and I could quite seriously bully my way out of trouble. Now, there's a couple of guns you can run with. Some people run this thing with the maddening 122mm derp gun. It's only got 30mm on its high explosive pen and 140mm on its heat, which is great, but it does 4.8 rounds a minute with a 6-second aim time and a dispersion of 0.523. What I run this thing with is the 85mm F30. It's a great, great gun for this tank. Excuse me. It does 200 alpha, which in a tier like this where you run into tanks like the Hetzer that has 440 alpha total is a pretty bloody convincing amount of alpha. I mean, even your, you saw just the match before, the Churchill one had 800 and something, 840, which is I think is the most in a tier 5 heavy. The BDR had 780, much the same as the KV1 that I'm driving here. You can see the Matilda there, he's only got 590, and every shell you land in this thing is like a legitimate body blow in a tier 10 heavy. It's like landing the 120mm on the IS-7 or something. Hurts for a, 460 alpha is a lot of damage. When you're talking about 2,000 hit point tanks, it's a fifth of their damage, fifth of their alpha, a fifth of their hit points. You land 200 alpha against 600 hit point and below tanks, you're looking at 30% of their hit point pool. It's a very good gun for that. And 0.385 dispersion running a few of the bells and whistles. That's pretty much going to be a stock dispersion with all the provisions and such. Is very, very nice. Your aim time's 6 seconds. But if you decided to invest in this tank and make this your one and only your tank de jour, the tank that gets your socks rolling up and down and all over the place, then you could put the mods on it, like the armour mod. You could run the traverse buff. You could do all those things, and you could make it an even stronger vehicle. It is quite simply put a joyous drive, and it's a tank that if you haven't ground up, you really should, because it's tier 5. It's so easy to get to. It's not hard to play. It's such a straightforward drive. The gun can be very trollish, but for all that, you don't want to be firing it at range. You want to be getting up close to within 150 meters, and then quite seriously pushing in beyond that, because you can become very, very effective at negating the incoming fire from the enemy while still pumping out tremendous amounts of damage yourself. I've switched up to the HE here because the HE has 300 average alpha, even though it's only got 43 millimeters of pen, but the backs of T67s, formerly the artist known as the T49, really suffer from being soft as buggery and not very much liking getting penned. The tank itself will not go particularly quick. It'll only get you up to about 30 kilometers an hour. 34 kilometers an hour is your speed limit, but it'll get there fairly sharply for a heavy tank. It's got enough traverse. You're in a tier 2. This is something a lot of people don't realise. It's not just about the raw numbers. It's about the opposition. A lot of the opposition you're going to find at this tier are not fully worked out tanks. They haven't ground through all the modules. They're not elated tanks. They're stock vehicles. Vehicles that don't have all the bells and whistles. They're not nearly as good as the ones they're fighting against if you have a fully elated vehicle. So tanks like this can really dominate. Like, there are people in this game who are legitimately grinding their tanks, and they might only have the first stock gun, and you can see that T28, he certainly does not have the top gun there. Like, the top gun on the T28 does a 189mm worth of pen APCR round. That bloke's running the derpy thing that just goes boom and fires bananas out the end of the cannon. This thing can carry. It quite simply can carry. Even faced with large odds, it just can carry. And you can see, even firing APCR there, there's no guaranteed pens on that. There's a lot of awkward pens, a lot of pens that just won't go in, and we hit around the turret, and we took a bounce, and we moved around, and that's all well and good, but it's just a tough tank to pen. 25 degrees of traverse on your tracks, 250 meters of view range, and 24 degrees of turret traverse. But the armor's the real story. Flat sides, very, very trollish armor profile, a very responsive gun, 200 alpha. I mean, you're going to see this little shot I put in here on the VK36 in a sec. We get a lovely shot in here on the B1, and then we're going to repair that track again, or just let it go. And you'll see I'm playing with the stock gear on this. I'm not playing with the with all the bells and whistles. I'm playing with the stock gear. I've got the fire extinguisher and the medical kit. I'm going to actually pull back here so I don't give this KV1 up the top any easies. Put another one into the VK3601H. Drive forward, just keep angling and dangling, and then I'm going to put a little sneaky shot in through here under the train tracks. Finish him off, and call for some help from my full hit point KV1 compadre over there on the right. So you saw my favourite tanks, and I went through the tier 5 stuff, and I did mention this one. I absolutely mentioned it. It got a Guernsey. I'm going to be doing more of that, so stick around, and I'm going to be doing the tier 6s. I'm going to do some gameplay and footage. I'm going to be doing the mediums, the lights, the heavies, and the TDs, my favourite ones at each tier, and I'm going to do footage of them, and it's going to be lots of fun. Get this tank, buy this tank, run this tank, get better at the game, enjoy it. It'll teach you to side scrape, it'll teach you all the things you need to know. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Until next time, stay safe on the battlefield.